In 2011, the NBA would bear witness to a miracle. After years of the once legendary Chicago Bulls falling far from grace, a franchise that a kid from North Carolina had transformed from a laughingstock filled with cocaine addicts into one of the most dominant sports dynasties of all time. That kid from North Carolina would seal his legacy with the shot that every old head gets rock hard over. He would claim his 6th championship ring and retire for the 2nd time, cementing himself as, depending on who you ask, the greatest basketball player of all time. His departure marked the beginning of the end. Legendary coach Phil Jackson was fired by Jerry Krause, and the era of dominance collapsed. The '90s Chicago Bulls had their last dance. What followed was one of the longest rebuilds in NBA history. From 1998 to 2004, the Bulls averaged a miserable 18 wins a season. Even after that, they were nothing more than playoff fodder. After the city of Chicago watched Ben Gordon and Kirk Hinrich try their best to compete with actual good basketball teams, bless their souls, the Bulls were gifted the first pick in the 2008 NBA draft. And with the easiest decision in franchise history, they selected Derrick Rose out of Memphis. Derrick Rose, or better known as D Rose, was Chicago's prodigal son, the city's hometown hero. Growing up in the south side of Chicago, Rose had become a high school legend, leading Simon Career Academy to 2 state championships. He carried that dominance into college, where he carried the Memphis Tigers to the NCAA championship game, ultimately falling short to Kansas. After that, Rose would put his name into the NBA draft, and he was drafted 1st overall by the city of Chicago. They saw him as their savior, a hometown superstar destined to be their next all-time great. Exactly 10 years after the shot, Chicago had its next superstar, Derrick Rose. He wasn't just a basketball player, he was a symbol of hope, strength, dedication, and fearlessness. He was the answer to a once glorious city's prayer. But as we all know, the story didn't go as planned, and in the blink of an eye, it was all gone. The question is, how do we get here?
Keeps the possession alive before throwing to Derrick Rose. Oh, and a spin! All-star move by an all-star starter. He threw it nicely to Derrick. Behind his back, and he drives and scores. Oh my goodness, counter on this guy. Woo, he got lost. That is a nice play in transition by
Growing up on the south side of Chicago, Rose idolized his predecessor and immediately made an impact on the team he had been waiting his entire life to play for, carrying the Bulls from a 33-win team that missed the playoffs to a 7 seed with a 41-41 record. This type of point guard shattered the league's expectations of what a point guard is. At that time, the best point guards in the league are what old heads tell you a point guard is. Chris Paul, Nash, and Chris Paul, the passing floor generals. D Rose, on the other hand, was lightning quick. He loved to finish at the rim, and he had handles that would give Allen Iverson a run for his money. And like Allen Iverson, his Bulls predecessor before him, Rose won Rookie of the Year pretty convincingly, averaging almost 17 points a game, dishing out 6 assists and 3 boards. His combination of speed, finishing at the rim, handles, and layup package were all naturally being compared to, well, you know who. This weight of expectations was a ton to put on the shoulders of a 20-year-old kid. D Rose led the Bulls to the playoffs, where they would be matched up against the defending champion Boston Celtics in the first round. And D Rose showed out in his playoff debut, dropping 36 points and 11 dimes, tying Kareem for the most points in a playoff debut for a rookie. This series is way cooler than people give it credit for. Like, dude, Game 6 went to a triple overtime with Ray Allen dropping 51 with 9 threes in 2009. Since the Celtics were missing KG, it was a much tougher series, and the Bulls were able to push the defending champs to 7 games. D Rose in that aforementioned Game 6 played 60 minutes with 28 points and 7 assists and an insane block on Chris Paul. Unfortunately, the next game, the Bulls would lose in the first round, and the Celtics would advance. But that's not bad for an overachieving team led by a rookie, right? The next season, Rose would improve his stats all around the board. He led his Bulls to another 41-win record, getting the 8th seed. The Bulls this year, they were fine. They were fine. The season is kind of underwhelming, but hey, he got his first All-Star appearance at only 21 years old. In the first round, they would go against MVP LeBron and the Cavs. D-Rose had a pretty great series, but when LeBron does this to you, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. In that offseason, the biggest free agent in NBA history would be on the market, LeBron James. After flaming out of the playoffs, the MVP of the league was going to make the second most infamous move in basketball history. People in bars were crying, were burning jerseys, and homes all over the world sobbed. But that's a story for another day. LeBron was speculated to go to New York, Miami, and Chicago. Chicago was holding out hope that D-Wade and LeBron would join Rose and form the next great Chicago dynasty. I mean, D-Wade ended up going to Chi-Town, but we don't really talk about that. Instead, LeBron and other Hall of Famer Chris Bosh would run to Miami to join Wade. And what did the Bulls front office do to replace LeBron? Well, they got Carlos Boozer. Yeah, I'm just being a dick. It was a really good signing. And they got a great new coach in Tom Thibodeau, defensive mastermind. Before the season started, D-Rose would say this.
It's high. The way I look at it within myself, why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league? I don't see why. Why can't I do that? I think I work hard. I think I dedicate myself to the game and sacrifice a lot of things at a young age. And I know that if I continue to do good, what I can get out of it. And if that's me going now or doing whatever, I'm willing to do it because I know that in the long run, it's going to help me.
He had something to prove this season, and prove it he did, because at 22 years old, D-Rose would light the basketball world on fire. He was more explosive, he was a better passer, he was a better shooter. Dude, the highlights from the season are endless. Rose could dunk.
Rose jets in and dunks the ball by Rose. Oh! Yes, and it counts.
Yeah, I'm the weirdo who said that last video that Nikola Jokic is the most fun basketball player for me to watch. But D-Rose is up there too. Him and Russ are by far and away the most athletic point guards we've ever had in the league. D-Rose this season was averaging 25 points, 7 assists, and 4 boards with a steal. Just improvements on all fronts. And this wasn't played during the modern NBA. This is still pre-Warriors basketball. This was when defense were all tightened in the paint, but D-Rose just bursted through them and he was faster and stronger than everybody. The Bulls had their fair share of setbacks this year. Carlos Boozer, their big offseason signing, missed the first month of the season with a significant hand injury. Later, Joakim Noah missed a significant amount of time with a thumb injury. Most teams would have plummeted under these circumstances, but D-Rose wasn't going to let that happen. He was willing them to a battle with Boston and Miami for the first seed in the East, putting up high-scoring performance after high-scoring performance. He was just unstoppable. Before the All-Star break, D-Rose had one more mountain to climb. The current best record in the league, San Antonio Spurs, came into his hometown, looking to snap the Bulls' 3-game win streak. D-Rose wasn't going to let that happen one bit, as he put up a then career-high 42 points with 5 rebounds and 8 dimes. During All-Star weekend, D-Rose was selected as a starter, which is insane for a 22-year-old.
At point guard, from Chicago, Derrick, fast don't lie, Rose.
After that, the Bulls went on an absolute tear going into the postseason. They lost to Toronto in their first game back, and then instantly answered, winning 11 of their next 12 games, even beating the Big Three Heat twice in that win streak. They capped off the year with the best record in the league, 62-20, and they cemented themselves as the only notable part of the Bulls' history aside from Jordan. Entering the playoffs, the Bulls were matched up against the 8-seeded Pacers and were heavily favored. Backed up by a huge scoring performance after the performance, Rose dominated them in 5 games. Then in the second round against the Atlanta Hawks, the Hawks take Game 1, May 4th, 2011, the night Derrick Rose received the greatest achievement in his basketball career, the 2011 MVP award. D-Rose had done it. He had become the youngest MVP in NBA history. At just 22 years old, D-Rose won an MVP against players like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Chris Paul, Dwight Howard, Kevin Durant, Dwayne Wade, and Dirk Nowitzki. Derrick Rose stood receiving his MVP award. He had done it. He had become the hometown hero his city had longed for a decade. Derrick Rose was the chosen prodigy of Chicago, and he proved why he was worthy of that title, dropping a playoff career high of 44 points to win Game 3. They would keep that momentum going to finish off the Hawks in 6 and advance into the Eastern Conference Finals. He led his team to where they had been in a drought for years. He brought them back to glory. And then they got stomped out by Miami. And it wasn't really close. When you have the best and third best players in the world, alongside a Hall of Famer third star, yeah, it was really never close. Their defense was completely locked down. This was seen as their overachieving season, even more than the first. It was an insane leap that nobody could have predicted. They were speculated to be contenders for years to come and rivals for Miami. But what we didn't know is that this bright future was already being tainted. Rose led the Bulls to another league-best 50-16 record in the lockout-shortened 2012 NBA season. Entering the playoffs, they were the first seed matched up against the bottom seed trash Sixers. And with 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock, the Bulls comfortably up 12. The game was already sealed, but he was still in the game for some reason. Tom Thibodeau, to this day, is infamous for having his starters play a ton of minutes. He had no reason to be in that game. Tibbs probably requested a lot of minutes from the spry 23-year-old, and then it happened. The hopes and dreams of this kid, who was selected as the next great hero of Chicago, was silenced. Rose's wings were clipped. He flew too close to the sun. He tore his left ACL, and the city of Chicago sports would never be the same. The Bulls were upset by the bottom seed Sixers, and their hero had to sit and watch as his team struggled without him. The ACL tear was so awful that it wasn't just an offseason injury, it was a complete year-ending injury, as Rose missed the entirety of the next 2012 to 2013 season. This damage didn't deter him, as he would work hard, taking care of his body, and in the gym trying to make a speedy recovery. And he made his return in the long-awaited 2013-2014 season, where his Bulls were expected to get back on track with him. In just 10 games into this season, he would tear his right meniscus, and he was already ruled out for another season. Rose would return for the 2015 season, only to tear his meniscus in his right knee again. Fortunately, he was able to get back into the mix, playing 51 games, and was greenlit to be good for the playoffs. There, they were matched up against LeBron's second stint Cavs, with Kyrie and K-Love. In Game 3, Drose would provide Chicago with one of the greatest moments in Bulls history. Ultimately, they would lose their next 3 straight, and the disappointing season had met its predicted disappointing end. The following season would be another uneventful season, especially for Drose, as he was actually only Chicago's 3rd leading scorer. His bundle of injuries had ripped away his once dominant athleticism and speed. Ultimately, they would miss the playoffs, and that offseason to this day, it was still one of the most dreaded summers in NBA history. Derrick Rose, the young and upcoming star, the icon, the youngest MVP, the champion of his hometown of Chicago.
What's up, E? You lying. You serious? Yeah.
Okay, or are you
just in awe? Yeah. All right.
Okay, just a different animal. This is a totally different fucking beast. All right.
Yeah.
This is the fucking map.
It's funny, I don't know how to feel right now. Like, I'm anxious, but shy. It's shy, man. That shit made me who I am, man.
They had traded him to the New York Knicks for Jerry and Grant, Jose Calderon, and Robin Lopez. He had given everything he had to that city. He made his dreams of representing his hometown like the former greatest of all time was, lighting his own path with his torch, instantly being all-star talent out of the gate, and becoming MVP caliber at only 22 years old. that torch would fade just as fast as it blazed, and no matter how many times he tried to relight it, putting so much time into recovering and trying his best to return, the city had given up on him and had to move on. In his first stint with New York, he would be paired up with a weird Carmelo Anthony team and would ultimately bounce around with an even weirder LeBron team. He was suffering with more bone injuries, taking extensive time away when be traded to the Jazz. There they would only last a few days as they waived him so Minnesota would pick him up. Minnesota was his 5th team in 3 years. The former MVP had fallen. He had become a journeyman. But it looked like he had found his footing with the team, re-signing with them and being a scoring piece off the bench, and he was legitimately in 6th Man of the Year talks. And there Derrick Rose would give the world one last hurrah. Early into the season, on Halloween night 2018, Derrick Rose would record a career-high 50 points in a game. This is undoubtedly a top 10 NBA moment ever for me. The performance, the crowd reaction, his reaction. Derrick Rose for a night showed that he would never go down without a fight.
And they all know what this means to him. They know what he's lost and now what he's trying to find. What a great moment for Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose. You can see you're very emotional. A huge victory for this team, and it comes from you and your career high 50 points. What does it mean to you, Derrick?
Man, everything, man. I worked my ass off, bro. I wouldn't have did this for the franchise, the organization, the fans, everybody, man. I wouldn't be able to play the way I play, man.
This moment is everything to me. This season would kind of put him in a weird yet awesome third act of his career, where he would sign with the Pistons, scoring 18 points a game, eventually going back to New York and have some pretty good years there. Ultimately, he would play his final season in Memphis in 2023-2024 and would only suit up for 24 games. This past summer, Derrick Rose would finally retire, when so many thought he would have been retired long ago, but he didn't let that happen. He didn't let his injuries cut him down. He was working hard until the very end. Derrick Rose's impact can never be understated. From getting all-star votes until he retired, he would get chants at every stadium. The way players continue to talk about him, Derrick Rose is the most beloved basketball player of all time. But there's one place that loves Derrick Rose more than anywhere else in the world: Chicago. And that's why this past week on January 4th, 2025, 1/4/25, the Chicago Bulls held Derrick Rose Night, a celebration of Rose's legacy and impact in Chicago. Derrick Rose didn't make this night just about him. He made it about his city and, most importantly, his son PJ. And thank God the Bulls promised to retire Derrick Rose's jersey.
When we retire your number in that Raptors, it's going to be more about you than the fans. So,
Wow. So that's why you
so I'm just telling you, nobody's wearing that number 1 jersey again unless PJ is a Bull. Then he's wearing that number 1 jersey, all right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
We really, I mean, Derrick, we love you. We appreciate everything you've done for Chicago, and you're a special person. And
Thanks, Mike.
Derrick Rose night was amazing. It was so beautiful. So many people showed up and delivered incredible speeches, and Derrick Rose got his flowers. Earlier in the video, I said the Jordan comparisons in Derrick's early career must have been heavy on the shoulder of a 20-year-old kid. But he loved it. He told Chicago that night, thank you for forcing him to be great and forcing those expectations on him. Derrick Rose is more than a basketball player. He's an icon, a symbol of hope and perseverance. People see Derrick Rose's story and think about what could have been. Well, you can't change the past. What's happened, happened. And he kept going. He realized that basketball didn't define who he was, and that there's so much more to life.
You're not only the MVP, Pooh. You're the people's champ. You're the people's champ.
That's the same thing that he passed on to his kid, his siblings, and that's a joke, like a joke that we have in the house. If they see me lacking on something, they say, Dad, you want to be good or great? And then make me remember, I'm trying to be great. You hear me? Great. gonna be great, I told you. And you all too. Greatness and great. I don't see you falling off nowhere under that. You hear me? So thank you, Chicago, for forcing me to be great. Putting those expectations on me.
Rose's story inspired me and millions of others. So in his words, are you going to be good or are you going to be great?